Hey guys, MoiDawg here, and it's been almost 2 weeks since the release of Squad V6.0 and the Infantry Combat Overhaul. And I'm not going to go and rehash all the very loud and very vocal minority opinions who have been voicing their displeasure of the game since they don't really matter much at all since the player base is actually growing. And last week's Hotfix, which fixed bugs and addressed sway and weapon handling issues, has actually solved many of the big complaints people had with the update originally. Taking a look at Steam charts, you can see that Squad is currently experiencing a nice resurgence of players, and the game has had over an 11% gain in average players for the last 30 days. But even this doesn't tell the whole story, since if you actually look at the peaks and valleys, you can see that Squad is now having far fewer players than it did before the update. This is a very good sign for the health of the game, since it is always great to see the high peak player counts, but if on a slow day or during off hours, Squad has almost 40% more players than it did before the update at the same exact times, that's a very good indication that people are liking what they're playing. From my personal experience, my servers, the potato fields, have been non-stop populated since the update, and that's spanning 4 servers. 2 of, I guess you would call it, the regular servers with AS or RAS, and we even opened up a smaller 80-man server which has more infantry-focused maps. But if you don't want to take my word for it, just go take a look at Battle Metrics, which offers game server and player data trends. Here you can see that on October 8th, Squad had over 106,000 unique players play the game. And if you compare that to the amount of total negative reviews the game has had since the update, which is just over 4,000, that's actually less than 4% of the active players who are leaving negative reviews. I mean, technically, if you want to be actually accurate, only 75 negative reviews were posted on October 8th. Meaning that only 0.0007% of the players who actually played Squad on October 8th went out of their way to not recommend the game. I've seen a lot of people posting on Discord or Reddit that they're not seeing anti-ICO representation. Well, that's because people are having fun in Squad and the numbers back it up. So if you are in Discord or Reddit or wherever, remember that people who dislike things are more than likely the ones who will continue talking about it afterwards. It's like some dopamine rush to always be negative and just keep talking about the things you hate, since it just validates your feelings. Now, the only reason I'm going so hard in this is because I've frequently had people ask me why the update is so controversial, because they've seen a Twitter post or they go to the Squad official Reddit or Discord. But no, this isn't a controversial update at all. You just have a very vocal minority who dislike the changes. Hopefully, using actual numbers instead of just feelings or opinions helps set the record straight a bit, since we are actually in a very good spot with Squad right now. In saying that, even with my overwhelmingly positive review of Squad V6.0 and the Infantry Combat Overhaul, there were still a few things that I disliked in the update. And quite a few people also had mentioned that they had liked the general feel of the game, but things really needed to be tweaked. Not much, we didn't need a full reversion, but little things just needed to be fixed, and the devs heard this feedback and have actually responded with the V6.0.1 Hotfix last week. Now, I've spent the past few days playing this hotfix, and before I talk about my thoughts on it and the resulting gameplay we've gotten, I want to first go over the few key fixes that you need to know that have been implemented. First, all rifles, DMR snipers, and AT launchers have had their lateral sway reduced by 10%. And this sway was by far and away the largest frustration players had when trying to shoot accurately. This reduction is just enough to make it feel much more manageable without reintroducing more of the arcadey tap shooting the devs were trying to stay away from. Additionally, ADS speed has also been adjusted for iron sights and reflex sights, and that, paired with the reduced sway, is actually a very nice buff to close quarters fighting. Personally, I've been actually leaning a bit more towards hollow sights lately, and even before the hotfix, I actually felt ADS speeds were snappy, so if you liked it before, you probably won't even notice too much of a change while actively playing the game. But those of y'all who did feel it was a little sluggish will definitely appreciate this. Additionally, the AK platform as a whole got a pass in order to make their iron sight firing feel much better. This includes a camera change as well as sway for the 1P63, which was reduced by 50% since the reticle would essentially disappear whenever you're moving around while stabilized and full stamina. Anti-tank launchers have also received a major buff since vehicles have been extremely aggressive due to their suppression effects after V6.0. Many times I have noticed things like BTRs or LAVs just full autoing their main cannons and diving headfirst into an infantry swarm since you couldn't accurately shoot them anymore. Even if you didn't die immediately, you still had to run away 30 meters from the vehicle in order to get a shot off and not cause it to min-arm. In order to address this, the devs have reduced the minimum arming distance for all AT launchers to 10 meters, with one exception, and that being the British in-law, which has been reduced to 20 meters. This is a very welcome change and has made it much easier to kill vehicles that do try to get too close to infantry lines or push right up against HABs. Now, machine guns should also feel much better now. Bipoded weapons will now stabilize faster and have had their transition sway time reduced by 33%, meaning that they won't bounce around as much when you actually have a stable firing position. Additionally, my biggest complaint about MGs was apparently a bug. The devs have fixed a bug that caused bipods to not reduce weapon sway at all the moment the player deployed the bipod while crouched or prone, meaning that the game would actually give you the same amount of suppression, the same amount of flinch and aim punch as if you were standing straight up and not bipoded. This is better late than never, but it is frustrating seeing things like this that was very obviously a bug and not an intended mechanic go unfixed and end up in the full 6.0 release, since it probably not only turned a few people away from using those machine guns, but even the game, as you can see here with a review where the dev actually had to go back and let them know, hey, it's a bug and we fixed it. You might want to come and check it out again. Lastly, the final bug fix is a bounce pass on the G3 and FAL, and now within 20 meters, all torso, upper arm, and upper leg shots will be one-shot kills. This is to help counter the massive recoil and handling issues these battle rifles have. And although I know some people really like these weapon platforms, and even did before V6.0 and the infantry combat overhaul, MEA especially is extremely hard for the average player at times due to how the G3 performs, so this is actually much appreciated. I do think it may be worth dialing it back a bit, so maybe only torso shots are one-shot kills and not upper arm and upper leg as well, but still, this change makes a faction much more fun to play and much more deadly in close quarters, which battle rifles really should. So there are a couple other changes in the hotfix, and I've included a link in the description below if you want to see them in their entirety, but these are the big and important ones. And with all those covered, I think it's really important to note that these are just very, very minor changes. But I've seen people take screenshots of the 50% sway reduction or the 33% sway transition time and use that to say that the negative reviews have completely reverted squad, or that they've completely killed the infantry combat overhaul, or we'd be turned into Call of Duty or Battlefield, it's all arcadey. Okay, no. That couldn't be further from the truth, okay? With how bad the vocal minority was about Squad killing the game with V6.0 and the ICO, those of y'all who are screaming the devs have completely reverted it as well or ruined the game are completely wrong too. These large percentage changes were for very specific weapon platforms or optics that were just not performing well at all, making the intended gameplay not existent. Most weapons have actually only had a simple 10% reduction of sway across the board. You still have suppression, you still have stamina management, you still have slower character movement, and realistically, you still have an intense amount of sway that you never had before. Now, this also goes both ways. If anyone says Squad finally listened and they reverted their changes because they knew they killed the game and we were right and yada, no, okay? Once again, both of y'all are wrong, right? Both of y'all are wrong if you say Squad has been heavy-handed with this hotfix. Personally, the game actually feels about the same to me. Obviously, the things like the anti-tank or the machine guns, they feel much better. But if you liked the gameplay before, you're gonna like it now. And if you didn't like it before but like it now, then great. Maybe those small changes really address the issues you were having, but I would also argue that if you're enjoying it right now, maybe you just had to give it a little bit more time to get used to it. But I want to hear from you guys. It's now been about a week since 6.0.1 has dropped, and does it work for you? Was the sway a little too much originally, and this is just the tweak needed for you to actually enjoy the game? Maybe you didn't even notice and you're just playing the game and enjoying it just as much, or maybe you still think there are some issues that need to be addressed. Let me know in the comments down below, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And make sure to come check us out on Twitch over at twitch.tv/MoiDawg, where I stream throughout the week. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.